as Israel continues to pummel Gaza, moving over the past few days against some 2 million refugees in Rafah. A number of cases proceed through the international judiciary. For more on that, we go to The Hague in the Netherlands to speak with Ambassador Carlos Jose Francisco Argüello Gomez. He's Nicaragua's ambassador to the Netherlands, and he represents Nicaragua at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. Nicaragua has brought a case in its own name against Germany, seeking to put an end to any German transfer of weapons to Israel. It has also joined South Africa's action against Israel, seeking to make the war end and stop the genocide. We spoke with him via Zoom this past Friday. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for your time. Last we spoke about Nicaragua's case against Germany with respect to its weapons sales to Israel that were being used in Gaza, and that the immediate relief that you saw, essentially a stay, wasn't granted, but the case goes on. Can you tell us what the status of that is now?
Well, yes, for the moment, the court, as I mentioned in the past interview, the court made clear that there's an obligation not to supply weapons to Israel, and that Germany has that obligation. So for the moment, since we have not seen, or at least we have not been informed that Germany is violating that order, then we are not moving in that respect. So for the moment, we are satisfied, which was our aim was to stop precisely the flow of weapons to Israel. So that has been achieved. Now, procedurally, the only thing that has happened for the moment is that the court has called the agents of both parties, the lawyers of both parties, for a meeting to discuss the further procedure. In the case, has to start. We have to present all our evidence and all that. So the case, in fact, is just practically starting. So we're going to have this meeting in the court, and then the court will fix a schedule of when you present your memorial, your counter memorial, etc. So that's more or less what the situation is for the moment. And frankly, from our point of view, we are just waiting and assessing the situation. If we see anything, any violation, then we can immediately go back to the court.
Very good. Oh, now there's the intervention of Nicaragua in the South Africa case. In the International Court of Justice, there was an order this past week, in essence, telling Israel to cease and desist their activities in Rafah. Do you want to discuss your intervention and your understanding of the case at this point?
Well, yes. I mean, our intervention was made very, very quickly. South Africa presented its case at the end of January, at the end of December of last year, and the court gave its order on the 26th of January, the first order, ordering Israel to stop its attacks, its violations of the Genocide Convention. So we presented our intervention, but we specifically mentioned to the court that we did not want to delay any of the issues related to the provisional measures that were being requested by South Africa. In other words, the orders that were being discussed with the court to stop what was going on, the provisional, the emergency, let's say, the emergency requests that were made by South Africa. So our intervention was specifically, we left that out because we didn't want that any discussion on our right to intervene should delay any decisions on these issues. So in fact, we have been, let's say, on the sideline watching these issues from inside, but also from the outside for the moment, because our intervention has not been, let's say, officialized for the moment. Now, what has been happening is very important. As you know, the situation in Gaza, I mean, it couldn't be more terrible. I mean, the court had given an order. Israel did not comply with the first order. South Africa came back with another request. The court gave another order. And finally, when the attack on Rafah, this last attack that began in Gaza by Israel against the remnants of the population that they have left there in Gaza, out of the 2 million that were refugees in a corner of Gaza. When this began, then South Africa presented more measures due to the emergency that was evident to everybody in the world. And the court complied and agreed that there was an emergency. So within the limits of the jurisdiction that is, or the authority that the court has, which is based on the Genocide Convention, the court gave an order saying that Israel should stop its military actions in Gaza, particularly in the Rafah invasion program. So that order was very strict. It also ordered that the roads and the highways and openings to supply all the things necessary for the life of the people there, I mean, even from water and food and medicine and everything, that they should be left open. They even mentioned by name the points that should be left open, so not to leave any doubt. So the order is very clear. Obviously, with any order, you can start turning it around. Even if you read the Constitution of the United States, or if you read the Ten Commandments, you can start arguing about the interpretation of what it says. But the order is very clear. So Israel has to stop its actions that endanger the life of the people in Gaza, in that area. So in that respect, we are very satisfied with that, with the situation. Unfortunately, the main supporter of Israel, which is the United States, has also, with Israel, tried to interpret the order differently, saying no, that the order is only limited, that Israel cannot continue the operations if they involve exterminating the population, in other words, violating the Genocide Convention. And of course, according to the United States and Israel, they don't have the intention of doing that. Even if they announce it, on the other hand, with one side of their mouth, they announce that that's exactly what they're going to do. But publicly, for public relations, they say, no, that's not what we're doing. So, but that's not what the court ordered. The court went and analyzed exactly what was happening and said, this situation is very grievous. I mean, it's a very brutal situation. Something has to be done. So the court wasn't going to tell Israel, I mean, do what is necessary, but don't exceed yourself. No, the court order was very clear. I mean, you have to stop the actions immediately. So that's more or less where the situation is at this moment.
In almost any other area of law, after the court issues a decision, an order, generally the adverse party, the party that's losing basically, doesn't want to do what they're being ordered to do, but there are enforcement mechanisms, execution on a judgment, whatever. In international relations, of course, it's a little more difficult to get an enforcement, particularly when you're ordering a military power like the United States and a belligerent like Israel to stop. What is the mechanism, that at least the formal mechanism, that would be followed, as they flout the order of the court?
Well, the mechanism is very, very clear. And also, the problem is even more clear, because what is involved is when the court gives an order or a judgment, if it does not comply, then the mechanism is to go to the Security Council of the United Nations, and the Security Council should order and take any measures necessary so that that order or that judgment of the court is complied with. But obviously, we go to the Security Council, the United States is going to veto whatever resolution. So that's the problem. I mean, the mechanism is there, but at the same time, we have the big problem. So that, unfortunately, is the situation. That in the long run, if you're going to enforce it, physically enforce it, not morally, because morally, obviously, the moral enforcement it's already there, and it couldn't be more clear to all the world. But to physically enforce it, then you need the Security Council. And in the Security Council, you have the veto of the United States.
So, I mean, that is contrasted with in the event, say, of a foreclosure here in the United States, and an eviction order after the foreclosure. It's just straight eviction order. The court issues its order, and the prevailing party goes to the sheriff, for example, and with an order of execution. the sheriff goes to the house and physically removes the people if they have to from this. Here, when you go to the sheriff can elect not to do what the court orders. That's essentially the parallel, right?
No, no, exactly. I mean, here exactly the sheriff in this case, actually, in your example, is the Security Council.
Well,
I mean, the court doesn't have soldiers, doesn't have police, doesn't have anything. What they have is the Security Council, because the court is part of the United Nations. The court is the principal organ, judicial organ, and let's say the executive part of it is the Security Council. So, I mean, that's the problem.
Sorry, here one of the interested parties can nullify the order of the court. In fact, that's what's different. I guess that's how I should have said it.
Well, yes, I mean, and speaking from my, let's say, personal experience as a Nicaraguan, I can also say that in the 1980s, we got an order from the court. We had a case against the United States that was financing and directing the war against Nicaragua, and we got an order from the court ordering the United States to stop. We went to the Security Council in 1986 with that, and then the United States vetoed it. It was an order against the United States. The United States should not have been allowed to intervene in its own, but it did. So now in this case, again, so I mean, it's not something of which I am ignorant, unfortunately. I have seen this all my career.
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope we get to speak with you again soon.
No, well, now you have all my information. Very happy to see you again, speak with you.
For KPFK, I'm Don DeBar.